Hello, I'm Steve Jobs. Man that's better than everyone else in this room and in this world, but just a man nonetheless. I'm here to talk to you today about the phenomenal growth of Apple. For the last 5 years, Apple has gone from being written off as a has-been company of the 80s to being the innovator in the world of technology. Things like the iPod, the iPhone, the MacBook, the MacBook Pro, and most recently, the MacBook Air. We've had a lot of responses to the MacBook Air, and people feel very, very strongly about it. The philosophy behind the MacBook Air, as you've seen in my keynote, was we wanted to make it ultra portable, but the same size as everything else. The same size display, the same size keyboard, the same size footprint. It's just a little bit thinner and much, much less underpowered. That's right, the MacBook Air standard comes with a 1.6 gigahertz processor, but the MacBook that we introduced over 20 months ago originally came with a 1.83 gigahertz processor. People have asked me, what is the MacBook Air for? Well, it's not for your main computer, obviously. It's underpowered. Well, it's a spare computer. It's a second computer for when you're traveling. And to keep the ball rolling, to innovate on top of innovate on top of innovate. To go from the iPod to the iPod Mini to the iPod Nano, to eventually the iPod Touch and now the iPhone. The best iPod ever made. Thank you. To keep the ball rolling, we're going to introduce a fourth member of the MacBook family. And I happen to have it right here. As you can see, this is a standard FedEx envelope, and the computer is right inside. I give you the MacBook Spare. The MacBook Spare is the latest member of our MacBook family. It is the smallest member of our MacBook family. I've got right here the standard MacBook, which we introduced in 2006. As you can see, the MacBook Spare is smaller. You can see there is space on all sides. Now, whenever you take something smaller, you have to give up something. And we think that what other people are giving up is too much. On the MacBook Air, we gave up power for thinness. But we didn't want to do that with the MacBook Spare. We didn't want to give up the thinness, because some people like heft. Sometimes you just gotta know it's there. So the MacBook Spare is actually thicker than the MacBook. Now, some of the complaints that we heard about the MacBook Air, not everybody felt positively about it, but everybody did feel quite strongly about it. Some of the downside, some of the things that we had to give up to make the MacBook Air as thin, as light, and as portable, as ultra portable, as ultra thin. To do that, we had to give up some connectivity. Not so with the MacBook Spare. On the MacBook Spare, you can see we have not one but two USB ports. We also have the FireWire, which we excluded from the MacBook Air. This is the FireWire 400. It has the mini DV out and the Ethernet cable, which we left off of the MacBook Spare. MacBook Air. We even went back a little further and added a built-in modem. We also included an optical drive. That's right. Many people were complaining about the lack of an optical drive. We have a combo drive built into the MacBook Spare, right here. And to make it just a little bit more user-friendly, it is actually a pop-out. But this isn't charged up, so I can't show you. But there it is, the MacBook Spare. So you can have a second or even third laptop, because the laptops you already have just aren't portable enough. So you need to get the MacBook Spare. Now let's talk about some more specs. Let's talk about power. How much power does this thing have? Well, as you know, numbers can be deceiving. With the MacBook going to 2.0 gigahertz for the standard MacBook, the MacBook Air going back down to 1.6 gigahertz, the processing speed that no MacBook has ever had in history, we're going to continue the trend and give you 500 megahertz. That's right, and don't expect to find an Intel Core 2 Duo or even an Intel Core Duo in this. It's not even Intel. That's right, the MacBook Spare is powered by a G3 processor. You have to think different. That's always been our motto, think different. Higher numbers does not always mean better. We're eco-friendly. Greenpeace is on our case. So to use less power, we're going to give you less power. The processor in this uses much less electricity than those Intel Core 2 Duos that we're forcing you to buy and everything else. This one is much better for the environment. Also, it has metal in it. Metal is recyclable. Thank you. And so, parts of this computer are recyclable. You can perhaps see them in a tin can later on, or a wire coat hanger. Something like that. Thank you. So here it is, the MacBook Spare. You didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, but you're gonna buy it because I, Steve Jobs. Oh, and one more thing. I'm not gonna do the one more thing anymore, so you could just get over it. And don't ask to take pictures with me. I mean, how rude is that? Just leave me alone, you stupid bloggers.